This is the first time I've ever filmed a video thinking, could this potentially get me killed? There are probably people watching this video that has no idea who I am, so let me just introduce myself. My name is Clara, I am 20 years old, and this year I was on a trip across Asia with my dad, one of the stops being North Korea. Now, I am in no way an expert on what is happening in North Korea, nor do I claim to be. This video is purely to explain what I saw, heard, and experienced there. I will try and put some links down below to places where you can gather more information. I am also fully aware that we only saw the good part, aka the totally not true. As an outsider, you're only allowed to visit the capital, Pyongyang, and life there is very different from outside of Pyongyang. You're also not allowed to wander on your own. You have to stay with the group at all times. We started in Dandong, which is the city that is the border between North Korea and China, where we met up with our group. Now, we traveled with Young Pioneers group. We were a group of probably around 13 to 15 people, including our 2 Australian guides. One of our guides had actually been on the trip with Otto Warmbier. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. If you haven't heard the story, that you probably have, he is the American guy who was detained in North Korea, who was recently released to his family in a coma, where he died a couple of days later. And my heart really goes out to his family because it's such an awful story. After we'd met up with our group, we had to take a train to Pyongyang. I am probably going to be making a full video on this train ride because so much happened. And a lot of it is has nothing to do with North Korea. It was just a lot of funny moments, and I think it would be slightly inappropriate to put it in this video, so I'm probably going to be doing another video about it. We drove for around 30 minutes to the border, where we stopped for, I think, maybe 2 hours, while soldiers were checking everybody's visas and passports and going through everyone's bags. My dad had his sleep apnea machine with, and they'd never seen anything like that, so that took a lot of explaining and a lot of asking around before he was allowed to bring it. Then they went through my bag, and I basically had 10 heart attacks in the span of 5 minutes. We've been told that we weren't allowed to keep religious books, and I had a Rick Riordan book about Norse mythology, and while that's not really a religious book and it's just children's fiction, I was afraid that they were just gonna read the word God and think that it was a religious book or something. Look, I was just freaking out. I had no idea what to expect. Eventually everyone got cleared and we continued on the, I think, 5-hour train ride to Pyongyang. We got some food and I took a very long, stressful nap after that not so fun experience. After we arrived, we met our 3 Korean guides who were all just absolutely amazing, just completely wonderful people. There were 2 guys and 1 girl, and her name was Lee, and she was the one who did the most talking, and basically she was just probably my favorite person in the entire world. She was just so funny, she was so sarcastic, and she was just generally nice. And so were the 2 other guides. They were just all really nice, good, kind people. We then took a bus to the hotel. And this was probably the fanciest hotel that I've ever been on. The only one who topped it was the one I stayed at in Bangkok, which was like a 5-star hotel. But this was just so fancy and cool and big, and there was just everything there. It was really upsetting that it was in such a horrible place because I really want to go back. There were multiple bars, there were karaoke rooms, there were swimming pools, there were pool tables, there were a hairdresser, there was so much stuff. It was really freaking cool, actually. The next day, we had to go around and see as much as possible. We only had 1 full day in North Korea. We had to cram in as much as possible. So I can't actually remember every single thing that we saw, but I'm going to just talk about the things that I remember. One of the first things we did was to go see the giant statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. And that was just a weird experience. Now, when North Koreans go to see these statues, they usually buy flowers that they put at the foot of the statues. And we were asked if anyone in our group wanted to do that. My dad and I were the only ones who did not do it. Now, no one in our group was doing it out of respect for the leaders. I think it was probably a when in Rome kind of thing. Or maybe it was out of respect for our Korean guides. I don't really know, but my dad and I were the only ones who did not do it because we just couldn't. It just seemed weird and wrong to do that. We also had to bow for the big statues. Again, my dad and I just kind of nodded. I have a picture here of our entire group in front of these statues. After that, we went to see the Grand People's Study House, also known as the National Library. It was very strange because they talked a lot about how much they valued education, and it was just so ironic when you know how much of their information they're getting is just plain false. It was pretty interesting though. We observed a couple of classes and we went up to the roof where we could see the Kim Il-sung Square, which looked like this during the memorial of Kim Jong-il. Also, they had a shop there where I bought this thing for my mom, which is dried and pressed flowers from North Korea, which I thought was kind of cool. Then we saw the Arch of Triumph. It's built to commemorate the Korean resistance against the Japanese in 1925. You might be thinking, this looks kind of like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. And you are correct, except this one is bigger and taller. And I'm saying that because, oh my god, they said that a lot. But we did went up on top of it and there was a very beautiful view over Pyongyang. One of the more scary experiences we had was going to the Victoria's War Museum. This is exactly the kind of crazy propaganda you'd expect from North Korea. And honestly, it was probably the only time during the trip where I felt truly uncomfortable and actually almost sick. They truly believed all of that stuff, and it was really just so plain false. And I don't know much about history, but even I knew that all of the stuff they said was just so not true. Now, this was another place where we also had to bow in front of this giant shrine for Kim Jong-il, where my dad and I just kind of snuck down back and didn't do it because we're rebels like that. No, but really, like, we just didn't want to do it. Now, we were there doing the St. Patrick's Day. You'd think that would be pretty insignificant. Nope! We actually went on a freaking pub crawl in North Korea. And no, I am not kidding. And honestly, it was just like so much fun. Admittedly, there weren't really any other people other than us, but we had a lot of fun with each other and with our Korean guides. We also went to an art museum, which was just a bunch of paintings and pictures of their great leaders in situations that were totally not staged at all. We went to a restaurant to eat some food, and some Korean ladies came in and sang and danced for us kind of randomly. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was really freaking awesome, but it was just surprising. And then we went to a post office where we could buy postcards and send them. And I'm going to show you these postcards because they are insane. This is one of them. It's a little, that's not that interesting. That's the White House, right there. And then this one, which is even crazier. That's an American flag, I think that's a plane, and just a giant fucking fist, just crushing it. We went to a souvenir shop where I bought a small pin of the DPRK flag, which you know is not to show my support for the regime, but rather to not forget what I saw there and not to forget the people I met. I really hope you guys can feel how I am feeling about the regime. I hope I do not seem too positive, because I am certainly not. But I do want to talk about something. When most people talk about North Korea, or when we see anything in the media about North Korea, it is very focused about the consequences for the western part of the world. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. Like, if North Korea are doing a missile test, I want to know about that. And I'm glad that they are showing what happened to Otto. So like, it's not that there's anything wrong with the point of view about what could happen to the Western world or what is happening to Western people who are visiting. But I just don't want anybody to forget who the true and biggest victim of this thing is. The North Korean people. They are struggling right now. It's hard to know that I met these amazing Korean people and there's nothing I can do for them. I can't save them, and especially because, they don't even want to be saved. But I still know that they could do the smallest thing. They could make the smallest mistake, and they could get executed for it. You know what's illegal in North Korea? Sarcasm. And no, I'm not making a sarcastic comment. That is literally illegal. You know who was very sarcastic? My tour guide, Lee. Some people in North Korea get executed if they fold a newspaper that has one of their leaders on it. It scares me that these people I've met, I wouldn't even know if anything happened to them. But even if it's tough, I needed it. Before I went there, I never thought about North Korea. I barely knew anything about what was happening. But after I went there, I think about it at least one time a day. And I may not be able to save everybody in North Korea, but if I can just do the smallest thing, like spreading information, then I'm going to do it. Another thing I can do is to tell you that you should consider going and donating to Liberty for North Korea. It's an organization that helps refugees, and it's a really good organization. They do a lot of very, very good work. And personally, I'm going to try and save up some money so I can donate to them. And obviously, I can't tell you what to do with your money. It's just a suggestion, but they do a lot of good work and you should consider it. I will put the link to them down below. I will also leave a link to my dad's podcast. He should be up with the North Korea one very soon, in the next couple of weeks, I believe. So you should definitely go listen to it. He has more information than I do, so. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. Bye!